had started a business, it can make the difference between keeping the lights on, paying your staff, producing more of what you need to produce, and so much more. So, I'm going to look at some strategies which will help you to really help you to figure out how to better manage your cash flow, right? So, the first one is have several streams of income. Now, this is really, really important, right? So, you know, the old adage that says, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Well, this is the very same thing. If you have only one source of income and something happens and that source of income fails or is delayed, then your entire business is delayed. You know, very important. So, never, it's several things all tied up in this. Never have one source of income, never have one client or one very large client who controls majority of your income, because if something happens there you have nothing to fall back on. The idea is you ensure that you have several sources from which you can get paid. The next thing, and I would dare to say the most important thing, is create and operate from a weekly cash flow projection. Just get a calendar and you know what's due to be paid and you know who is supposed to pay you when. So just start from what's due to be paid. If the utilities are due in this week, if you need to pay suppliers there, if you need to pay staff, if you need to pay taxes, all of these things are for the most part set, especially as it relates to taxes, payroll, you know, and utilities. It's very important that you have a global look at this so that you're not surprised or you forget something is due and you don't have the money to cover it at the beginning of each month. You will have if you do this and you get a global picture and say, okay, this is what I need to do. So the very important thing is, and this is also helps you to set your sales projections and say, listen, I need to sell because all of my bills total to this, but this is when I need it. You know, that's what the weekly cash flow does for you, right? The next thing you want to do is, especially if you're a new business, is to structure your sales with a mix of cash and credit. Really important, you know. So once you have done that global cash flow and you're looking at the entire month and you're saying, okay, I'm going to need this, this, and this. If I give credit here and I give a 7 day credit, but I need money within here, within that same 7 days, then it would make sense that you have some cash going on, right? And you have to also make allowances for if people pay you late, because as much as we'd like it to happen, it doesn't always happen where people pay you on time. So it's very important that you structure your sales with a mix of cash and credit, right? Very important also is to get all your customers' details up front. Now I shared this experience. I was selling a supermarket for the first time. I was very excited about the sale and I wanted to just sell. So I went, dropped off my invoice along with the products, and I'm saying, okay, fine. You know, they'll call me when they have a check. Oh, duh. Um, After I didn't hear from them and I kept going every week, kept dropping off stuff every week, I didn't hear from them. I said, hang on a second here. Uh, when do I get a check? They're like, oh, you have to call this department, which is over in a completely different building. And I'm like, okay. When I call that department says, oh, you need to send a statement. Okay, all right. To what address? The first person gave me the wrong address. So I sent it in all comfortable and saying, oh, yeah, man, they got my invoice, they got the statement now. No, 2 weeks pass and I still don't hear from them. So I'm like, hang on a second, something is wrong. Call. Girl says to me, oh, it's the wrong address. If I had gotten all of that information from day one when I'm having that conversation, you want to know what is your payment schedule? How often do you pay? Is there a day for pickup of checks? Because some places they don't issue checks on particular days or in between particular times. You want to ensure that you know what is your payment schedule, their days for payment, and what do you need to know to do to trigger that payment. So get all of that information up front. Don't make any assumptions like I did, right? The next thing is create different payment cycles, right? And this is important. You know, everything goes back to that global view, that cash flow plan that you made, right? You know when your payments are becoming due. And so what you want to do is create different payment cycles that will hit for each credit customer, that will hit whenever you need it to hit. So you don't want everybody to pay at the end of the month necessarily, because you have bills that you need to cover within the month. So structure different payment cycles for different customers. And the other thing you want to do is to partner with your customer. Get to know your customer's business, because in knowing your customer's business, you can you set your expectations, you know what's going on when. But not only that, become friends with the payables clerk, you know, the people who handle the payments, you know, so that you can say, hey, did you do any check for me this week? Hey, what's going on? Can I get a check this week? You know, that kind of thing. Or if they have um, a situation on their hands that they need to decide, okay, we can't pay everybody this week, that because you have a relationship with them, then they will say, okay, let me drop this one in because I know that they're expecting something every week. And, you know, it's just based on relationship, right? Now, the next one is to manage your customers closely. That's like really, really important, because you don't want to keep giving credit and they're not paying you. You don't want, if you find yourself in a situation where you've done all that you needed to do to trigger payments and it's not happening, you don't want to continue to extend yourself. You don't want to continue to expose yourself to this customer. So you need to decide, what are you willing to extend to this customer, right? And you want to, there's some customers who I call them slow but sure. They pay you, but they're slow in paying you, right? And so you now decide on the mix of those customers that you want to have. So I will take that risk with customers who buy small amounts. You know, I know they're gonna pay me, but they take long to pay me, right? But the fact of the matter is that I minimize my risk, because I say, you know, those are smaller checks. The customers with the bigger checks now, I get to a point where I say, okay, that's enough. You do something, or I'm gonna stop doing that, because that makes no sense for my business. This one is maybe harder to do, to keep a buffer as a business. And I'm gonna address it in another video as to, you know, kind of how to manage your money within the business, but it's important to keep a buffer, preferably somewhere in the region of 3 months. Now, for most businesses, that's like seriously difficult. But what you want to do is to ensure that if you end up in a situation where your customers are not paying you, you have a little breathing room in a buffer that says, all right, I can pull from this to cover this month's payments because these guys are having a problem, or I'm not getting enough money. But it's important to restock that buffer, right? Really, really important. Um, then you want to ensure that you manage your payments, right? Manage your payments. Very, very important. So the one thing that you want to do, if you don't pay before you need to pay, if it's due on X date, pay on X date. The only way you should pay ahead is if you're getting a deep discount that will make sense for you over time. But just ensure that you manage your payments. And sometimes if you can extend, call your customer, call your supplier and say, well, is it possible for me to pay a week later, etc., etc.? You want to ensure that you you manage your payments such that these customers that you're getting everything that you need when you need it, right? So you pay when you can or when you're able to. So that's also another way. It's really important to ensure that you do this. So let's do a quick recap. So you want to ensure that you have several streams of income. You want to create and operate from a weekly cash flow, and this is like the most important thing. Structure your sales with a mix of cash and credit. Get all your customer details up front and create different payment cycles. Manage your customers closely. Keep a buffer and manage your payments, right? So thanks for joining me. I'm going to ask you to like, subscribe, and share with all the people who you think could benefit from this. And until I see you next time, thanks for coming. Um, See you next time. And please comment and tell me how you manage your cash flow. All right? Great. Thank you.